welcome to the next episode of The Alchemist Tells a Lie. I want to go over oven roasting cocoa beans. It's what most people have. I don't know actually any people who don't have a home oven. So it's a good approachable way to jump into this. Unfortunately, it's also not really the best way to roast cocoa beans, but it's viable. The first thing I'm going to do is actually jump into this, get the beans in the oven, and then we'll talk about it. It's probably going to take 25 minutes, 20 to 25 minutes to get these properly roasted as I like them. So what I'm going to do is I've been preheating the oven here. We're up at 350 degrees, and I've got a heavy glass dish over in the oven here, preheating, so we've got a good hot surface and we don't have to put it in cold and waste all that energy getting the dish up to heat. I want to do my best to hit the ground running. That's actually one of the biggest problems I've found with roasting in the oven. It's not very dynamic. It's slow to respond, and so we need to compensate for that by doing some preheating and starting off at a pretty high temperature. So again, I'm up at 350. We're going to put in 2 pounds of cocoa beans, get them roasting, and then we'll talk more about why I'm doing what I'm doing. All right? So again, nice heavy glass dish. Got about 2 pounds of cocoa beans there, weighed out. And in these are going to go. And with that, I'm actually going to start a timer. Keep an eye on that. And we're going to keep it at about 350 degrees for about 5 minutes. What that's going to do is start letting the beans soak up heat. They're going to get it from the bottom, from that heavy dish, and the top from the heat in the oven. They're not going to burn or get over roasted in that time. They just need to start soaking in that heat. What I prefer you not use is, something thin like this. It has a tendency that as the oven cycles on and off, it's just so light that the bottom can scorch. You can get little scorch marks on the beans. In coffee, that's called tipping. It can give you an acrid flavor because the way ovens work, they don't have a fine control. So 350 here, it's set at. The way the thermostat works in an oven is that it heats up. It hits 350 degrees. It shuts off. Unfortunately, lots of parts of the oven, have more heat. And the result is the temperature keeps going up. I was checking a little while ago with the thermometer here, a little infrared, and it was up at 380. And what's going to happen is the beans are going to see that, and if it's on this thin one, it's radiating heat pretty quickly and you could overheat it. The glass absorbs that heat, helps balance it out, give you a more even temperature. It's one of the reasons ovens are a little hard because the temperatures go up and down. So once it hits that 350, again, it keeps going up. It's 380, starts falling naturally as it soaks into the beans, as it escapes here, because I can feel heat coming off. And it's going to drop, and each oven is different. That's why you'll hear me a lot saying I can't give you an exact profile. I don't know what power your oven is. Mine's gas, yours might be electric. They all act differently. Different BTUs, different wattages, just all over the board. It's why, even though it's 350, my 350 isn't the same as your 350, both for control and how much heat's being input. So anyway, but it's a good ballpark, and what we're going to do is go by our senses for roasting a lot of this. We're going to smell, or I'm going to smell, but tell you what to try to catch, and how to make that work. just checking time. Oh, we're just only 3 minutes in. I'm just going to keep an eye on that. At about 5 minutes, I'm going to give these a stir. Try to do that every 5 minutes. Try to, just keep them even. Get those ones that are right in the center a little cool. Bring them up and just even it out. Sort of like, what a drum roaster continuously does. Nice even roast, nice even temperatures. That's why drum roasters work so nice. And even if you've got a convection oven, all that's doing is circulating the air inside the oven. It's not moving the beans, and still, they need to be homogenized a little bit. Anyway, back to how the temperature controls in an oven. Again, it was at 380. It's going to come down to 350. They're all built in to have this this window of when the thermostat kicks on again. Some kick right back on at 350. Some say, okay, we need to go down 10 degrees. Wait till it's 340 and kick it back on. So there we go. And some may go as low as 325. So it's going to continuously do this. And each oven may be different. Some may do nice and small. Convections may be actually pretty flat. It all affects the roast. So anyway, and again, every time I open the oven, which I do need to do, I'm going to lose some heat. Again, the reason for 350. We're trying to get the beans to, somewhere about 250 to 260 to 270, depending on the bean. Lots of variables. And so that's why we're starting so hot, because each time I open it, we're going to lose some, and it's got to replenish that heat. With that in mind, it's close enough, just because I thought of it. We're at 4.5 minutes. I'm going to give these a stir, nice and quick, and let them keep going another 5 minutes at that 350. You can do this one of two ways. You may, if you want, just get in here. As I'm watching this, these are rolling as I'm doing that. And get those back in. So already at 5 minutes, I'm getting this, I'm first off getting a little fruit coming off and just a little bit of acetic acid, that's vinegar, which is a byproduct of fermentation. I'm smelling that coming off. I'm also getting the very first hints of just a little toastiness. I can smell those skins, that husk heating up. Good smells. Nothing like chocolate yet. And those probably aren't going to kick in for another 10 minutes or so. So anyway, I'm going to give you, on that note, the procedure we're going to do for this, and what I recommend to you, is 2 pounds of beans, 350, put it in for 5 minutes, stir. Give it another 5 minutes, stir it again. At that point, let's drop it to 325, nice easy number. 5 more minutes, stir it again. We're at 15 minutes, and we're going to keep doing that. At 20 minutes, we'll go on down to 300 degrees, and at 25 minutes, we'll bring it down to 275 and let it sit there. What we're trying to do is basically meet the two temperatures. The beans coming up, well, for you, the beans coming up, and the temperature oven going down, so that they hit roughly at the time that I've learned takes for a good roast, 20 to 25 minutes, at about 270. You can't over roast that way, and you won't under roast. There's some alternatives, by the way. That's the way I like to roast. I like somewhere between a 20 and 25 minute roast. If you want to, lots of people do it. You could alternatively put them in at, put them at 275 and let them sit for an hour. It's going to do it nice and slow. You're going to develop some chocolate flavor. You will indeed have a good bacterial kill, one of the reasons we roast. You will still loosen the skins a little bit, but not as good as if you aggressively roast or aggressively heat, which is what we're doing now. But the skins will loosen up and let us crack and winnow them a little bit better. But to my there's gives and takes for all of this stuff. By doing it that way, I find the flavors in the finished chocolate are a little flatter than I like. Some people really like it. They like that super smooth, super mellow, non-aggressive chocolate flavor. Wonderful. That's what you like. do it that way. That's okay too. There's as many people and ovens, or as many people and ovens that there's ways to roast. This is just my way, how I prefer to do it. Okay, we're coming up to 8 minutes. Another couple minutes and we will stir them again and check the aroma and give them that stir and then drop the temperature for that first time. All right, be there in a second. All right, we are at 10 minutes. We're going to give this another stir, and then we're going to go ahead and drop the temperature by 25 degrees. Okay, if you saw, I took a quick temperature reading with my infrared thermometer. With it stirred, you want to get it post-stirred while it's evening out. And we're hitting about 195 degrees, which I've been roasting for 10 years. So I know what these benchmarks are, but that's a really good benchmark. 10 minutes, 195 degrees. There's a lot of water in these beans, so we need a lot of heat to get that water out. And my token when I'm doing a drum roast or most roasts is I want to hit that 212 water boiling mark, somewhere in the 12 to 15 minute range. That tells me basically I'm on target for hitting 250 to 260 to 270, temperature dependent upon bean, and more importantly, how it smells. And that's your benchmark. And so, but so that we don't zip past that, and scorch the beans, that's why we're turning the temperature down. We hit it hard, got it up, and now we're basically like cooking. We're sauteing fast, now we're putting it down to a simmer, just to use that comfortable analogy. All right, at this point, another couple, 3 minutes, and we'll stir them again, turn them down again. All right. Okay, we're at 15 minutes. I'm going to turn the temperature down again, give them a good stir. Really starting to smell nice. Starting to get the slightest chocolate smell. Let's see, we are 220 degrees. We've passed that watermark, which means we want to start easing the temperature down for just that reason. So we don't rocket past it. It's sort of like going downhill. You want to slow up at it. There we go. So we're right on target in the middle of a good roast. 15 minutes, it's starting to smell like chocolate. And there's no acrid smells. There's no sharp smells. It means I'm not heating it too hard. So those are some of the signs you look for is not quite burning, because you can't burn at this temperature, but it's unpleasant. If you smell unpleasant smells, you may be heating too hard. I really don't expect that in an oven. It's kind of actually hard to do that. So anyway, we'll let that keep roasting, and 5 minutes, we'll turn it down again, and let it then coast into, the baked brownie smell, which tells us we're basically there. All right. Okay, we're at 20 minutes. We're gonna bring the temperature down again. It is smelling really nice now. It's kind of baked brownie smell. And so let's give that a stir and drop the temperature. Okay, so we're hitting about 230 degrees right now. And we're getting, for this particular bean at least, a complexity of smells now. There's some, like a baking bread smell. There's a little bit of the chocolate smell. The acids have basically disappeared. They've been driven off. There's also, I gotta say, as I'm sticking my head in every time, there's this quality of the air, basically the humidity. Those first few times I could feel the moisture coming off on my face, and it's a dry heat now. We've taken care of most of that moisture, which is really important. This is a sort of a full sensory experience, and you just have to learn it. And that's actually the biggest point on on roasting and for cocoa, and actually the entire chocolate making process. The honest part of it is that I can't teach you to make chocolate. I can't teach you to roast, or at least I can't do it on the internet and in videos like this. The best I can do is try to teach you how to teach yourself. What's really important is to take notes. Do a roast, especially even on this first one where you're following my directions to the letter. Record your bean, record your weight, record what container you're using. Make, temperatures, the oven settings, I should say, what oven setting you're doing. And every time you stir it, make some notes about what it smells like. You will forget them. Make notes. This is sort of science. You've got to record it. Adam Savage of the Mythbusters makes a comment that the difference between science and messing around is taking notes. This is science. It's the art and science of chocolate making. Take notes. Because you're going to use them again. It's not just taking them. It's you've made these notes, you make the chocolate, you determine, oh, I like that chocolate or I don't like that chocolate. And then make a decision what to do next. Maybe your oven's a little cooler than mine or less powerful, and you need to go to 375 initially. So that by the end, they have the right smells like I'm hitting. Maybe you do want a slower roast, that it's, you want to mellow it out a little bit longer. So possibly you're not going to drop 25 degrees each time. You'll maybe drop 20 degrees and keep it methodical. And it'll stretch the roast out and mellow it out a little bit. And temperature. Cocoa, like anything in the oven, baking bread. You can bake a loaf of bread from 25 minutes to, reasonably 45 minutes. It'll give it different degrees of completeness, different flavors and textures to some degree, but it may be perfectly good at 35 minutes or 25 minutes, or better at 45. It's your taste. Cocoa is going to be the same way, in the same vein as you aren't going to overly you aren't overly going to instantly going to over roast. It's a very gradual process. You've got a large margin of error is what I'm trying to say. So there's not, oh, it's done, I need to pull it out. You've probably got a 5, 10, maybe even 15-minute window, even at these warmer temperatures. So relax. But again, take your notes. Oh, I left it in at this 275 for 10 minutes. And it was a little brighter than I wanted. Next time, leave it 15 minutes or 20 minutes and record it, and then record the chocolate and associate back. That's what I mean by an iterative process. You got to teach yourself. And that's the big thing I want to show you here. One final thing. Let's see. First off, we can go ahead and give this one more stir. And it's just to even it out, but we're at a pretty cool temperature now, figuratively speaking, 275 degrees. As I'm sitting here, what caught my attention, made me want to think to stir it, is that chocolate aroma. It's coming out of the oven very nicely. So let me give it a stir. Oh. Okay. First off, my observation to you is what's coming out of the oven was a nice chocolate. The first breath I had of opening that oven had this little, what do you call it, little bite to the back of my throat. It's not over roasting, but it's the sign we're getting near completion. There's no burn smells or anything, but it's just a good indicator of, oh, it's almost there. and we could pull it at this point, be perfectly fine. We can leave it as I just said, 10 more minutes. It's going to be perfectly fine. It comes up to what you like and just making a decision. So what I was going to say, another indicator which you may or may not get is at this point and forward, some beans, and it's a big sum, may pop. You may hear snaps. Not sure. This bean, I probably don't think we're going to get any, but it may happen. They are a really good indicator that you're in a totally safe zone. They start snapping and you're at the 275 mark and it's been 20 to 30 minutes. You got to have all those together. If you got to snap it 10 minutes, it's probably what's called an outlier. It's not a real snap. And these snaps are not unlike popping corn. It's basically the same mechanism. It's an explosive release of the water. Not all beans do it, and you're probably only going to hear, even on a bean that wants to snap and pop, half a dozen. If you do hear them, wonderful. And if you're in that zone, let them go another, I'm going to just, for your sake, say, go another 3 minutes after your first positive non-outlier. And then pull them. Let them cool and make your chocolate. These, like I said, aren't apparently going to pop. It's no indication that they're not ready. Popping seems to be very dependent upon how aggressively you heat. Ovens just don't aggressively heat. If I wanted these to pop, which again, you don't have to, I possibly would have even bumped my temperature initially up to 425 and then lowered it reasonably quickly, but a much more aggressive roast. But again, different ways to do this. All right, we're gonna let these keep roasting for another few minutes and we'll see if we get any pops. I'll tell you if we do. And then we'll pull them out and finish this up. All right, we are at just over 30 minutes. The smells in the kitchen are wonderful. We've got some touches of cinnamon and spice, baking bread. There's an underlayer of chocolate. We didn't end up having any pops, totally acceptable. It's just a nice complex aroma. There's no acids in it. And I'm gonna make the final judgment as I open this oven, but I'm comfortable that these are done and ready. So we're gonna go and pull them out, and I'll get that temperature. Yeah, we totally have a really nice chocolate aroma in the oven itself. And we're sitting at 255 degrees. That is a great ending temperature. Go ahead and turn off the oven. And there we go. Those are set. So what you're going to want to do is you could force cool these if you want, as in like put a fan on them. It won't hurt them if you don't. What you do want to do though is go ahead and let these cool to room temperature easily. And my rule of thumb is 6 hours before you do anything further with them. Absolutely do not, even if they're cool in an hour, don't bag them up and seal them. There's moisture escaping. And it'll escape for 6 hours or so. If you seal them up before then, you're going to get condensation inside, and it's just not good for them. After 6 hours, they should be pretty much totally stone cold room temperature. Takes a while for all that heat to migrate from the inside back out and get cold, for the beans to get hard. And it's really important for the cracking and winnowing process for you to crack cold or room temperature hard beans. Otherwise, they kind of smash and they don't separate really well. And just on a final bit, this is a bit warm, but I can sit here and that shell right there, that shell separates off pretty nicely, which is one of the indications, not a perfect one, but a good secondary check that it came off pretty nicely, or that you had a good roast. tasting this right now, it doesn't hurt to do it. It's not going to taste like even a chilled bean. You've got a lot of chemical reactions going on, and they're going to continue going on right now. They've got time that they need the time to develop, finish, and all that time the flavor is going to change. A lot of people do eat them this way, or evaluate them this way. I just personally found that they taste too similar, and so I don't tend to do it. On that note, that tastes like a roasted cocoa bean. It's a little bit totally soft. It squishes a little bit, doesn't have a great crunch. The greenness of a raw cocoa bean is totally gone. There's a nice developed toastiness to it, a little bit of chocolate. The astringency of a raw bean has dropped remarkably. There's classic astringency and bitterness in a roasted bean, but it's plummeted. So anyway, that's it. Let these cool 6 hours, crack and winnow them, and make them into chocolate. All right, thank you much.